Hi everybody, my name is Emily. I'm here today to cook with you. I am a graduate dietetics student working to become a dietitian, and today I'm going to be going over one of the dinner together meals. So I chose white bean chili. I have the recipe printed out here from the Rise Vermont website. If you're new to the initiative, Dinner Together is a great initiative that started to promote families eating dinner together. There are lifelong benefits to eating together. And also right now during these times, we're all at home more with families, so really a great opportunity to learn how to eat healthy, stay healthy using food. And also these recipes are family friendly, pretty not very time consuming, pretty easy to put together, but we thought having some videos would be a great support. So that's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna cook with you. Going to touch base on some of the products in here as they are WIC approved products. If you are a WIC participant, these recipes can be a great example of affordable healthy meals to cook with your family. So to get started, I'm actually going to turn on my pot over here because we're going to be sauteing some onions and garlic, and I'm just going to start by going over the ingredients that we have here. So we're going to use olive oil in our pot or our pan to saute our vegetables. I chose a pot because we are making a chili. And this, I also want to point out, can be a vegetarian recipe. So we're using chicken. It does say on the recipe it's optional. So again, if you're vegetarian, feel free to just skip on the chicken. You can add in some more beans for protein. I cooked the chicken in advance, so you can see we've got 2 cups of shredded chicken here. So I cooked this in the pan, I let it cool down in the fridge, and then I shredded it with my hands. You can also use a fork. We're gonna have 2 cans of white beans. So I've got 2 different varieties here. I do rinse them, and I recommend rinsing them. Buying low sodium beans is what was recommended for this recipe. Typically, a lot of our canned vegetables and beans can have a lot of added sodium, so good to rinse them so we're not getting too much sodium. So I gave those a rinse in the sink. I also have a cup of corn here, so I'm using frozen corn, just Signature Select brand from Shaw's. I want to point out too that both the beans and the corn are WIC approved foods. So in your frozen vegetable category, and then in your peanut butter or beans category, white beans and a lot of other varieties of beans are available and WIC approved. So while my pan is getting warm here, we're going to be putting 1 large onion that is peeled and chopped, which I already have chopped here. And this is going to go right into our pot. And we're also going to put garlic in. So this recipe calls for 3 cloves of garlic, which you can see I've already got chopped up in here. I wanted to point out another great tool that I love if you have a cheese grater in your kitchen is once you peel your garlic, you can just grate it right into your pot. Find it a really easy way to get the garlic chopped up nice and fine. And I love garlic. We use a lot in our house. You can always add more for flavor, totally preference. And I put a tablespoon of olive oil in this pot. And I'm just giving these onions a little bit of a stir. And you're gonna wanna cook these until the onions start to get a little soft and clear almost, or transparent. That's really gonna help bring out the onion's flavor. With cooking a lot of soups, typically you start with an onion or with garlic. It really gives a good flavor. It's also, we're going into fall winter season. Onion and garlic in particular are really healthy foods. They're good to help us ward off cold and flu as we enter into that season. So lots of good reasons to be using those ingredients. So the other ingredients that we have here, I've got 1 bell pepper all diced up and ready to go. You can pick any color bell pepper that you want. Red is my favorite. Peppers are so good for us. They are very high in vitamin C, which is also very important for this time of year, going into cold and flu season. I've got 1 sort of medium zucchini chopped up. For this recipe, you can do 1 larger zucchini or you can do 2 smaller zucchinis. So once we get the onion and garlic sauteed a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and add in these vegetables. And then I'll talk a little bit about the spices. So while these are cooking, I'm just gonna give them a little stir again. And I have my flame on like low to medium, not super high. You don't wanna burn the onions. Starting to get cooked down a little bit. Smells amazing. And the other ingredient we have here that's going to be going in a little bit later, we're not going to add this yet, but we've got chicken stock. This is the Bumblebee brand. I try to aim for low sodium for that as well. Typically in our canned foods, they can contain a lot of sodium. It's nice, we want to be able to kind of control the amount of sodium that we get. So again, I like to aim for low sodium for chicken stock. This recipe calls for 2 cans. So I've got 2 cans of those. So now that the onion and the garlic are starting to cook down, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add in my other vegetables. So I'm gonna add in the bell pepper. And I'm gonna add in the chopped up zucchini. And I'm gonna go ahead and give that a stir. Starting to look pretty in here. And I'm just gonna give you a look into here. So we're gonna let this cook down just a little bit more before I add anything else. So the other thing that we're gonna wait to add is the corn. This is gonna go in last. If you add it in too early, it can start to get a little mushy. So that'll go in with the stock. For the chicken, I chose like lean, skinless chicken breast. Depending on what you prefer, like to buy, lean cuts of meat are gonna be the healthiest option, best option for us. So that's what I chose for this. And I want to talk a little bit about the spices. So what we have going in the soup today, we have cumin, which is a fantastic spice that goes so good in chilies. We also have chili powder. With this, it's really going to be preference in terms of how spicy you like your chili. So we're actually going to go ahead and start adding some of these. So I have my little measuring spoons here. And I'm gonna get my teaspoon, which is what we're gonna be using. So for the chili powder, I like it with a little kick. So I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons of this. And that can go right in with your veggies. And then we also have oregano. So we're gonna be adding 1 teaspoon of dried oregano. Go ahead and add that right in. And we're going to be adding 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And at the end of this too, again, you can always taste your soup, you know, add spices if you need to. Try to practice adding more of your spices aside from salt to really get that flavor. It's really easy to just go ahead and grab for the salt, but it's fun to learn about new spices and really explore those flavors. They can add a lot to a dish. So for the cumin, we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of that. So I'm gonna get my teaspoon back. Add that in, and we're ready to give everything a stir now. Things are starting to cook down a little bit. So it says here on the recipe, about 20 minutes is how long you can let these vegetables really cook down. We're probably at, I put stuff in here about 10 minutes ago, so I might wait a little bit, but no hard and fast rules. Once you feel, you know, that they've cooked down a little bit, you can start to add your other ingredients. The next things that we're gonna add is gonna be our cans of beans. We're gonna add our chicken stock, and then we're gonna cover that, and then we're gonna let that cook a little bit, and then we're gonna add the corn last. So that'll be the last thing that goes in, and we're also gonna add the chicken in next. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and throw that in there. And I'm gonna take our beans. These can go ahead and go in. And the great thing about this dish, depending on how many people are in your household, any kind of soups and chilies make excellent leftovers. They tend to get a little more flavor after a couple days. This recipe could, you can save it for leftovers 3 to 4 days. By day 4, it should probably be eaten. But these kinds of things make really yummy leftovers. I know in our household it won't last long. So there's our cans of beans. Next, we're gonna add in the chicken stock. 1, 2. I'm gonna give everything a little bit of a stir. Now what we're gonna do is, I've got my flame, I'm gonna turn it up a little bit so it's like medium. I want to get like a little bit of a simmer going. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a lid, going to place it right on top of that pot, and I'm going to let it cook for about 10 or 15 minutes while I just put the lids on all my spices here. So the fun thing with this chili too, you can also add some garnishes on top. So I have